Welcome back, football fans. It's a little bit wet outside. This is my Hats Off podcast. So here at Studio B. There's all types of things going on over here. We got some barking dogs, some upset weekend, Rod. I think everything is upset. I think the weather's upset. I think the dog's upset. I think there's a lot to be talked about that's upset today.
Well, most definitely. I mean, after this weekend, it's it kind of makes people start thinking again about how good they are, how good they thought they were, and it makes other people think we're better than we thought we were. So, great weekend of football, though.
We got William in here. We got Derek. We got Dwayne. We got Tyrone. Tyrone, I appreciate you coming in and putting up the emojis because I know it's not a happy weekend for Millville. We're going to talk to the coach of the team who upset Millville on Friday night, and that is Coach Wojceichowski of Lenape. We're going to do that a little bit later. We've got a lot going on, not only on the field, but off it. There's, this is, as Dwayne said, the season is flying by, both in North Jersey, where he is, and I know Union came close against Hillsborough. I see Hector's in here. Hudson Catholic got a win for Hector. There's a lot of action everywhere. I also want to know what the worst weather you've ever sat in a football game is. Because as soon as this thing is over, I got a whole bag of stuff over there, and I'm going to layer up, head over to the link to watch the last undefeated team in the NFL play against Jacksonville. Mm-hmm. We've been in some wet ones over the years, Rod, and some cold ones, and I know how you feel when it's cold outside. It's not the best, but I want to hear from you guys because everybody remembers that. Everybody remembers the worst weather they've ever been in at a football game. So
Right.
Chime in the comments. Let me know. There's been a lot of cold ones over the years. Rain, I think, is worse. But it rained on Friday night. I was at Paul VI. They played Morristown. Mo Keishan, the third, got the hat for Paul VI, the first hat winner in Paul VI history. They won 20-0 against Morristown. Morristown quarterback John Zolman did not play. He was injured. He said he should be back soon, which is good for the Quakers, but they clearly missed him. I was impressed with Andrew Courier of the Quakers for his play through the night. But Paul VI just too much. I mean, Dom Santiago at quarterback, 6'4.5". They got a lot of big plays early on. Keishan blocked a punt. Jamel Brown caught a touchdown pass. Gavin Bunt scored, and senior night was a big deal over there at Paul VI. Great environment, great turf. They put down new turf. Beautiful field.
Yeah.
And it was a cool night, man. I know there were some games across South Jersey that proved to be a lot better than we had thought,
Right.
I mean, if everybody knew the Lenape game was going to be as epic as it was, everyone would have been there. But this was nice to step out and see, a place I haven't been ever to cover a football game. I've covered softball and maybe basketball, definitely soccer. They had that coach's championship game over there usually. Mm-hmm. Fun night. Congratulations to Mo. And then on Saturday in the game of the week, Woodstown beat Salem 7-6. This was a classic, Rod. They moved it from Turkey Day, as many of you know. And Woodstown actually is their first hat as well. Zach Bevis gets the forced fumble to preserve that 7-6 win. I mean, this guy, linebacker, he waits. Salem had just gotten 1st and 10 at the 12-yard line. 4 minutes left, 7-6. Field goal range. Salem can kick it. Mm-hmm. Salem can kick it. It's field goal range. And first down, running back comes through the hole, never sees. Bevis comes around and smokes him. I mean, really laid the wood. Ball pops out, and that Woodstown recovers it. Now, Salem did get another possession to try to move down there, but that was essentially the end
It
of the
wasn't
game.
the same.
Morristown, not Morristown, Woodstown, too many towns, deserved to win the game, I thought. Salem did not really play well, but Woodstown had a lot to do with that. You talked about how good Woodstown is up front, man. You're absolutely right. Garrity on the line is a monster.
Yes,
and he was all South Jersey last year. I don't know of a kid who has a motor like that. And for them to get the win, not only the rivalry, but the fact that those power points now, Woodstown is in the driver's seat for now, but next week they play Woodbury. That division, man, we talked about it.
Yeah, they have the 1 seed, right? I mean, in that division, and we talked about it was going to be games coming up later on in the year that are really good, that are going to kind of dictate where people are as far as playoffs go. And this is one of them, and I think we have 2 more coming up in Group 1 that may put people in position to control their own destiny, home field advantage. That is key, having that home field advantage. But that was a really great game. I was sitting home, watching the Twitter feeds go in and out, and it looked like it was a real dogfight.
Dwayne says the Pinstripe Bowl, Iowa and Boston College, 10 degrees at kickoff, got below 0. I mean, Dwayne is a football junkie. But to see a game like that, and even if it's a bowl game, to see a game like that in the cold, you talk about dedication. We're talking about Iowa and Boston College. He sat there. I mean, it's not like the fun and gun, the run and shoot. This is Iowa and Boston College.
Right.
My man sat in that weather for. Woo.
Yeah.
I know there was some wild stuff going on in college yesterday. I missed most of it, honestly. But I did see LaQuint Allen had a 90-yard run for Syracuse. I think he had 4 touches, 110 yards as Syracuse rolled over Wagner. But thank you and congratulations to Mr. Allen, 2-time Hat Man last year. He was sitting right here last winter, wasn't he?
Yeah, and it's in that game, it was a lot of South Jersey kids in that game.
Yeah, there was.
I mean, Deuce Chestnut got a pick 6. And then, of course, you have Elijah Clark that plays there, Dennis Jacquez. I want to send
Deuce had a pick 6?
Yeah, Deuce Chestnut had a pick 6. I want to send out prayers to Dennis Jacquez because I believe he got hurt in that game, and that might be the end to his season based on an injury. But
I hope that's not the case.
I hope that's not the case as well, but I definitely want to send, prayers out to him, speedy recovery. And then some other guys on the other side, Jaden Brown and Javen Little and what's the speedy guy? His name just left my head. Played at Woodrow Wilson. Simmons. And Trace and the other Simmons from Winslow played in that game as well. So it was a lot going on in that game. But it was one thing that I saw on Twitter. I don't know if this is true or not. Did you see that they cut the quarters from 15 minutes to 10 minutes? I didn't even know you could do that.
I didn't see that. Like I said, I was pretty off the grid yesterday. Once after the Woodstown game, once I got back from that, I didn't see that. But I know in high school you can
you just run a clock
or have a running clock in the second half, or there might have even been a case where they did shorten quarters in the second half. I mean, maybe there's not. Someone might say, no, that's illegal. But I think I've heard of that before, or somebody mentioning at one point that was agreed on. I was kind of hoping in the rain on Friday night that might be the case because the game was out of reach. But I do know there was an instance once, and I won't reveal who it was, but a coach asked the other coach if they could start the running clock in the first half because they were so overwhelmed, and the other coach said no. Said no.
He probably
put up some major numbers in that game. I think there was a reason for that, and I don't know. That's
well, how do you? My question: how do you feel about that? I know me as a coach.
I'm fine with it. In a game like that, I'm fine with it.
I'll take my lumps.
I would take my lumps, but with The sensitivity is if you're one of these programs that is going to Syracuse or wherever, essentially for a check, right? You're going there to help your program. I mean, that's it. You're getting paid for that, and you go there. You're not going there so you can get in extra reps in the fourth quarter down 49-0. And your guys now, you get dinged. I don't know, man. I'm okay with that at that point, but I mean, I would prefer that not be the case. I would be more interested to see from a back end perspective of what sponsors would feel like, because you know, television sponsors for different commercial breaks,
exactly.
And now the game's over, and it might go to some recycled programming or something that you have in the can, right? Like that people aren't going to watch, and you're in between that time frame. I don't know. I think they might be upset to say, well, now look, you got reruns on. We thought the people in Syracuse, New York, or upstate New York were going to be watching these ads. And I don't know how all of that works, but that would be a concern to me, because you could shorten the game by 30 minutes.
So that's what I was thinking. I was thinking about the sponsorship, the advertisement, and all that stuff. But me as a player in college, I'm getting ready to tell y'all something that you probably won't believe. But we lost the game 87-7. And you talk about the longest day of my life. That literally was it was a bad game. It was one of those things where the opening kickoff, they take it to the house. Then they kick it to us. We take it to the house. So we're like, yeah, we're getting ready to play.
Baby.
And next thing you know, they score. We throw a pick six. We come back. Like, literally, we were on the field. And I thought our quarterback, who's one of my best friends, I thought he was point shaving that game. I looked at him and I'm like, dude, like, you keep throwing pick sixes. Like, so that was one of the worst games I've ever been in. And of course, the coach took all the starters out after the first quarter, because you're down by almost 40 points. But I don't think I would want my coach to like wave the white flag, like, mercy. Like, I would rather not even play. I would rather forfeit than to show up and then like say this is a little too much for us.
I think it's I hear that, and I value your opinion on that. And I can honestly say that had I known that you'd once lost a game by 80 unanswered points, I might have been a little more sensitive to the topic when we brought it up. Of course you don't think Wagner should be fast forwarding the quarters.
Yeah,
you took it worse than almost any team.
I took my lumps. You take your lumps and you grow from them. That was probably the worst loss I've ever experienced. But it was like the easiest game.
Anyone.
You would think you were getting like just dominated. It really wasn't that type of game. Like, if we all know football, everything that could have went wrong did go wrong in that particular instance.
For you guys.
Yes.
Not for them.
So let's just say the ride home after the game, it was kind of quiet. But when I tell you about 4 or 5 of their guys made it to the NFL, and it was just like,
it was
happened to be one of those teams where 2 years later, you're looking on TV and you see a running back playing for the Dolphins. It's like, it makes sense now.
It's funny how that used to work. Like, even when I was a teenager, I remember playing AAU basketball in Richmond, Virginia, and we played, and you just showed up. There was just all these teams. You don't know. Some of these, at that point, it wasn't like, I think now it's more defined who the best teams are, the national teams, the whatever. They had different additions, but you just showed up and played whoever it was. You could play 6 kids from, I would just start naming random stuff here, but nobody will know in Virginia. But just like, you could be playing 6, kids from the hills.
Right.
Or you could be playing 6 guys who are going to the ACC. You don't you show up, you're playing. You're like, okay, team, green, great.
Right.
Other than Boo Williams. Of course, everybody knew Boo Williams' teams were outrageous. But we showed up and played, and they said, okay, I played 2 guard. I was guarding their 2 guard or whatever. It might even been the point at that point. And the guy's just like, I'm like, this little guy is just killing me, man. And, we lost. It was whatever. And we were clearly outclassed.
Right.
So the next year, I'm at home. I'm like a junior at this point. I'm watching TV. It's like Tuesday night. I'm watching ESPN. And Boston College is playing. And Tyrese Rice is going for 40.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like Leonardo DiCaprio in that meme. I'm pointing at him like, that's the guy. He's a freshman going for 40 in the ACC. Or maybe it was the Big East then. I don't know. They might have been in the ACC. No, I don't remember. But either way, I'm like, yeah, well, no, now I feel a lot better now.
Yeah.
He's giving me buckets all day. He's giving, whoever it is, he's giving them buckets too.
It's funny you said that, man. I was watching. So that all of this like kind of came about me thinking about this last night when I'm watching Clemson and NC State. Mm-hmm. And of course, we're like, yeah, this is going to be Devin Leary's coming out party. Yeah. It's going to happen tonight, right?
Well, last year was, right?
Last year was. So we were, I was pumped up, and of course, everybody that either their kids played with Devin or you knew Devin. But just thinking about that, like how many kids' parents were screaming at them on a ride home that you guys got smoked by Timber Creek. You know what I mean? Like you couldn't stop these kids, or you guys aren't good enough. You didn't play hard, And next thing you know, you look up and he was in the Heisman running before, what happened last night. Yeah. But you look up and these guys that you played against that were smoking you, and boom, they're on TV, and you're probably looking at your dad right now like, yo, Dad, like. This the dude that put up 6 touchdowns on us, and you yelled at me.
About this. This guy's could go in the first round of the draft. And it's funny. The time he got the hat, he was a sophomore. That playoff game down at Hamilton, and I don't know what he weighed. It was like 100. Yeah, like he weighed 130 pounds, soaking wet. Mm-hmm. And he just kept bringing them back and back and back. And at the time, it was like, I cannot believe this.
Right.
Now, and then as time went on, you quickly realize I can totally believe that. Only one guy could do that, and it was him. Shout out to kind of change a note here. A shout out. I talked about the Eagles being the last undefeated team in the NFL. I think we're down to 6 in South Jersey now. Yes. I want to give a shout out to those teams: Cinnaminson, Coach Mario Patrizzi, Seneca, Coach Fisher, Woodstown, of course, yesterday, Coach Adams, Haddonfield, Coach Delano, got a big one next week, Delsey, Coach Marquez, and Pensauken, Coach Tab. So congratulations to those programs. They're still undefeated. It will not end up as 6 because Seneca and Cinnaminson do play each other in a couple of weeks. So I don't know. And Woodstown and Haddonfield also play each other.
Yes, that's what we were talking about. It's those games. This is the time. See, everybody was kind of like really focusing on the early games, and the early games do mean a lot. I'm not downgrading that at all. But when you get to the middle of the season, that midway point where teams are starting to figure out who they are, and you have good teams facing each other, this is the best time for high school football. Like now we get to see who's who. We're seeing everybody starting to get some of their players back, and certain things are happening, and it makes for a really good time in South Jersey.
Looking at my tweets here, we have a couple mentions, and Amber says that the worst weather she ever sat in, Christmas Eve at the Vet 25 years ago. I'd say the worst weather was Triton and Highland. I mentioned it a million times on these shows over the years. The final score was 2-0. Dan Herf got the hat in Runnymede. Last year, Triton and Hamilton in Runnymede was also pretty bad, but that was the worst weather, 2-0. And the coldest was definitely Woodstown and Gateway in the playoffs, whatever year ago that was. That was pretty frigid. And that was not even in December or November. I don't think it was October. Mm-hmm. And then some cold snap came through, and the wind chill was like -8 or something. And and Camden West Defford in the sectional semifinal on top of the hill in the middle of the day a couple years ago was windy and bad, very, very cold. But the rain is a different beast, and I would rather be cold than soaked.
Man, don't bring up the rain. I got one for you.
Yeah.
My worst game was as a coach. Mm-hmm. This is going back. I'll tell you how far back this is. Danny Curtis, who is Danny Dimes. He's a part of Gridiron Access. He coaches down at Oakcrest now. He was my running back. Anthony Townsend, who coaches at Pleasantville, he was my quarterback. Mm-hmm. So that kind of puts you where these guys were. It was 8th grade year, and we're coming from Camden. It's the championship game, and we're looking at the sky, and I'm like, man, I'm not sure if we should, try to cancel this or if we should actually play this. And I think it was like a tropical storm. It was some type of storm. So the sky was like orange before the game. No rain, just orange. So we decided to play the game. My assistant coaches are telling me, Rick, cancel the game. Let's cancel the game. Let's try to cancel the game because our game was throwing the ball. So for opening kickoff, it started to rain. Literally 10 seconds before the kickoff. Downpour. We kick it off. One of our guys slips. They take it to the house. This is in a championship game. And my assistant coach is looking at me, and I'm like, dude, we in the game now. What are we going to do? Nevertheless, we lost that game, but it was like a hurricane. And our team was named the Hurricanes, right? So I'm trying to find all type of motivations and sayings like, we're the Hurricanes. We play in this weather. But in the back of my head, I was like,
nope,
this is not happening.
Nope.
That was the worst. I mean, we were soaked. There probably was 2 fans there, and one of them was my wife at the time. Like, that's how bad it was.
The only thing I'll say about, and I know this will be an unpopular comment in this room and overall, because every year I say this. I understand the need to. I understand the desire to move the games to play in to preserve the fields and to get better weather and all that. But it's football. Like, the game has to be played in the rain, in the cold, in the snow, in the sun, in the wind, whatever.
Right.
It's football.
Yeah.
This is, if you want to make sure you're in, you stay warm and dry all the time. Football's not the sport for you.
Yeah.
Like, at this point, you got to realize I don't like standing out there, but they're war stories, man. You come back in, you're like, we survived that one. That night at Triton Highland, I went back to the Courier Post. The power was out. The emergency lights were on. They were just like these little lights in that whole big building. Anybody who knows it, down on Cuthbert in Cherry Hill, all the power was out, and it was a interesting night. Now we got Union and Linden 87 is what Dwayne said. Our guy Will Hickson is in here. Says he'll talk about Wilson's sectional loss to Mainland in 95. Were you at that game, Rod?
I remember that, though. I was at Camden High at the time. I remember that. That was bad. That was bad. That was bad. And you're talking about a run and shoot offense. You talk, 5 wides. Yeah. Like Mainland's like, yes.
We've been praying for this.
They probably put more water on the field that day.
Yeah. Mainland was excited for that one. Megan says Timber Creek washed the township 7 years ago. Sideways rain and gusty winds. That might have been that same. 7 years sounds right.
Yes.
For that Triton High. I think that was the same night, Megan. I think it was.
Yeah.
Hector says playing the remnants of Hurricane Hugo in '89 in Newark. The punter punted the ball 15 yards backwards.
Well, I've seen one of those live in dry weather.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not going to put the team out there, but I've seen that one. That was recent.
Speaking of that real quick, yesterday was a day to forget for Salem's offense. And again, we talked about Woodstown's defense, had a lot to say about that. But Ja'Kai Coates, the quarterback, actually, this is a weird situation. He scored the touchdown that Salem scored as a running back.
Oh, wow.
The only play he ran as and I'm not talking about quarterback power. I mean,
they handed him
Bundy
the ball.
got under center and handed it to him, and he scored. But he also, his punting, I thought his punting is what kept Salem in the game. He punted one that was so high, it was muffed, and that led to the touchdown. And they didn't get the two. He was stopped on the 2-point conversion. But the other thing that happened was he punted a ball from his own end zone that bounced, and Woodstown started at their 30.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, it was serious. It probably hit down at, I'd say, probably about the 50 or Woodstown's 48 maybe and rolled. But that was serious, man. I mean, in high school football to switch a field like that.
Dude, that's huge.
Yeah. I know it was not a happy homecoming for the Rams, but hey, credit to Woodstown, man. James Hill ran for $140 some. He played well, and he was kind of dinged up and still just soldiered on. And that defense was great. And Max Webb, this is the last little piece I'll say of this, and we'll get to break, and we're going to bring on Coach Woge of Lenape. But Max Webb noticed a play that they had practiced that worked against Salem a couple weeks ago, and they had almost hit on a few years ago against Woodstown. They ran it down to get the touchdown, and Max Webb called it. But this is, if anybody here remembers Paul Harvey, the rest of the story. The score was 7-6. And we've talked on this show about how Salem can kick it now. And they opted to go for 2, down 7-6, to basically put Woodstown behind the 8 ball and kind of go for the hammer. So they lost 7-6, and Coach Adams of Woodstown tells us after the game that they never kick extra points. But this week, they knew Salem can kick extra points. And they had Max Webb, the quarterback. They said, he's a pretty good athlete. We think maybe he can kick it. So in practice this week, for the first time, this is what Coach Adams said. For the first time, they sent him out there to practice extra points. And he made it.
Wow.
And then Salem went for 2 and didn't make it. And the whole reason Woodstown even kicked was because they knew Salem could kick extra points.
And Salem went for 2,
And
thinking that they had to try to put the game away at that point, probably, with the 2. Like, that's wow.
So
I love those backstories.
Yeah, it's interesting, man. Like the story behind the story. It's funny. Credit to Coach Adams and his. I'll tell you what, man. He did a great job yesterday, and this guy is. There were some fans that traveled over from Woodstown, and they're just telling Coach Adams every chance they give James Hill the ball. I'm like, James Hill gets the ball all the time. Like, what? James Hill can't get the ball in the huddle. You know, when he gets up there and they snap it, they give it to him. Then they give it to him again. Then they give it to him again. It's like, when else do you want him to get the ball?
Right.
And he plays every snap of defense. And he's the punter. He had some good punts yesterday. And he did just about everything but sell hot dogs in the stands. But big win for Woodstown.
I was at a game this week. I don't think you have it on there for the first segment, the Willingboro.
Yeah, Willingboro. Eastside gets on the board. Game. Jules.
Let me tell you something. That was a very good game.
There was a lot of penalties though.
Yeah. I got home about like 10:45. But that was a really good game. Both teams were missing players. Mm-hmm. I think Eastside were missing about 7 starters. So the game was really good. But Lamar Best and Brunson, mm-hmm. they are the next. They're a part of that next wave of quarterbacks that are coming in. The things that those young guys were able to do within that game to keep them in that game, both teams, it was pretty enjoyable to watch. You know, they're a young team. Both teams are young, but people are going to have to watch out for them in the next year. Like
even
this
before
year,
that, even this year.
Yeah.
I'll tell you a game that is going to be under the radar. We'll talk about it on Wednesday. A game that might be under the radar for some
mm-hmm.
because of some of the matchups next week are great. Willingboro at Pennsauken.
Yes, I knew you were going to say that. I knew it. Yes.
All right, let's take a break, Rod, and let's bring on Coach Woge of Lenape. His Tribe beat Millville, who we had ranked number 1 on Friday night, 21-17 at home. We'll be right back with Coach Woge. Joe McColgan, Nick Strom, and John Doherty have been part of a lot of wins in South Jersey football. They won on the field. Let them win for you in the game of real estate. With over $200 million in real estate transactions between the three of them and over 30 years of real estate experience, they're servicing anywhere in South Jersey, from the Philadelphia Bridges all the way to the Cape May Lighthouse. With one of South Jersey's fastest-growing teams, $29.5 million alone in real estate sales in 2021 and 22. First-time home buyers, seller consultations, relocations, rentals, downsizing, or if you're not quite sure how to get started in the process of real estate, give them a call for a free consultation at 609-314-9862. That's South Jersey Elite. They won on the field. Let them win for you in the game of real estate. Welcome back to my Hats Off podcast here at Studio B with Rod Self. We are glad Rod is back. We're going to talk to Coach Wojceichowski of Lenape. Do we have Coach on? Let's see. Coach.
Hello?
Yeah, you got me?
Let's try to give him a call back. I'll hang up and call back.
Big win for Lenape. I don't think anybody really saw that coming, except Rod kind of saw it coming.
Oh, you gonna throw me under the bus?
Rod was alluding to this.
So
was Mac.
You can't throw me under the bus live on air.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, I had that one picked. I kind of.
Yeah, you kind of thought so.
I was seeing some things, but let's try to get Coach back on. Let's see if he can hear us.
Yo, Rod.
Yo,
Coach. Can you hear us? Let's see.
Rod, can you hear me?
Can you hear me, Coach? I don't know. We're missing the audio.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'll try to do some.
Let's do it this way. I'll call him from my phone. Put him on speaker. Can we do that?
Give me 1 second.
All right.
Just keep it going. We'll try to figure something out.
I'm not the AV guy. Other upsets that we saw this week, I don't know I would call Woodstown an upset. I mean, looking at it now, they're the number one team in Group 1, I think, in the state. That West Defford played tight with Haddonfield. That was a close game, but no upset. Highland, however, knocks Timber Creek from the ranks of the unbeaten. Let's give a shout-out to them, Coach Wright, and that powder blue helmet there behind me. A big, big win. They win by, I think it was 19-14. I said Coach Wright. I'm sorry. Coach Leary. Coach Wright lost to Coach Leary. Big win for Highland. There's a lot of – that game is the backyard brawl for sure. And I know the guys up front for Highland really, really work. How about St. Augustine? They just threw it on Shawnee the other night, 38-14, I believe. And Holy Spirit quietly just keeps doing what they're doing. They roll again. Other than that blemish to St. Joe, they haven't lost. St. Joe wins in the last minute against Cedar Creek Friday afternoon. Big win for the Cats. The Thundering Herd put up a lot of points against Gloucester. We good to go, Rod?
Let's make a call.
Let's make a call. We're going back. I told you, man, everything's going wild this weekend. Here we go.
Right.
Coach.
How are we?
All right. Here we go. Coach Woge is on. Coach, congratulations on the big win on Friday night. How's everything going, man? You staying dry?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like obviously we're excited as a program. It was a really great win for those kids, and on Friday night, we're kind of in that Sunday mode now where it's back to work. It's Chief Week now, so
it's Chief Week, Coach. I've seen some epic battles between when Mac was there as the head coach and when you were there with you guys in Cherokee. And what always stands out to me is it's a game where you got to bring your hard hat, which is exactly what Lenape football signifies. What is this rivalry like for you, Coach?
Kind of being thrown into it 10 years ago, my first season with Lenape, you kind of saw what it meant around our parts, what it means to them, what it means to us, and then how it's grown over the last 10 years with with what Mac was able to build here at Lenape and create, where this became a battle of heavyweights between two really, really good programs in South Jersey. So it means the world to us. Records don't really matter. It's a game we want to win, especially after what they did to us last year on opening week. This is one our guys definitely want, and it means a lot for us. Every year, one of that goals is to be the best team in our school district, and in doing so, you got to beat Shawnee and you got to beat Cherokee. So it's always circled. The guys are always prepared, and as are they, and it's a lot of fun.
Coach, you're down 17-0 at halftime the other night against the team we had ranked number 1 in South Jersey, and I think a lot of other people did as well. What was the message to the kids before you went back out in the second half?
Look, I got to give those kids credit. We walked into that locker room, and there wasn't a single head hanging. Every single kid were eyes beaming on us as coaches. What do we got to do? We can play better. We need to tackle better. We need to block better. Offensively, we moved the ball inside the 33 times in the first half and didn't come away with any points. Defensively, we let up a 3rd and 7 screen to go 40, and then an 80-yard underneath route, and they scored they kicked the field goal on a short field on a bad punt. You got to tackle when you with those kind of players, those kinds of kids that are running around on Millville sideline. You got to tackle. So it was, guys, let's stay on our blocks and let's tackle, and then let the rest take care of itself. It's not the way we drew it up. We certainly wanted to play ball control football, control the clock a little bit, limit their possessions, and we thought we could give them a game. Being down 17-0 at half was certainly not the way we drew it up. But again, I give my kids all the credit in the world. They just kept at them. They just kept playing, it didn't just happen. They kept grinding and chipping away, and finally we were able to get some points on the board late in the third quarter. And I said to them, look, guys, first 2 games we let up 14 points in the fourth quarter and lost those games.
Right.
It's our time to score 14 in the fourth and win a football game. And, that's ultimately what we did.
Coach, there's always going to be a lot of commentary and a lot of salutations to a Michael Lenape or a Zaire Fleming, two really good players. And your team's identity has really gotten more pronounced with Fleming in the lineup, no doubt about it. But who's a kid when you watch the film of that game on Friday that you might not see his name in an article or something, but a kid who really was a big part of that win?
Well, I think when you look at, our last few games, a kid that was playing linebacker for us that was just, a really good football player, but wasn't having as much success as the linebacker position, just started learning defensive end. And you look at our last three games of that cat playing late in the third and fourth quarter and way he's able to get off the ball, and Najee Ringo, I mean, he is disruptive in the backfield, and he's a big component of what we've been able to do and win late in games. In the Williamstown game, he made several plays in the backfield late in the fourth quarter. He ends the game in a sack, on Friday night. He's a guy, that's getting it done. And on the opposite side of him is a kid that's playing both ways for us, completely undersized to play linebacker, tight end, and Ty Smith. But he's a guy that when you flip on the film, he's productive, he's disruptive, and he does a fantastic job being a leader for our team. So those two guys are guys, when you flip on the film, you're like, man, these guys are good football players. You might not light up the stat sheet, but they get it done.
Coach, for those who aren't familiar with your program and the inner workings of it, it's easy for us because we obviously know Coach Mack and we've been around you guys as well over the years. But if you look back at last year, beating Washington Township in the first round, hanging right there with Kingsway, you won 2 regular season games. The year before, of course, the COVID year, your team was very special. But over the years, you guys find yourself in games because of your identity of defense and being able to make sure you value special teams and taking care of the ball and things like that. Wait, what really would you call the motto of Lenape football? It seems like you're always in a game, and that's a credit to you and Mac, of course, for establishing that culture. But what would you kind of sum that up as?
I don't know if I could truly sum it up and whether we got a motto or what it is, but trust, believe, commit, right? Trust in what we're doing, believe in what we're doing, believe in one another, and commit to it 100%. You continually do that. You continually get, 16 to 18-year-olds to buy in. You're going to find yourself in football games. We believe in what we do. I believe in our staff. I think we have phenomenal staff. And we got guys that are going to put kids in the right position. And if those kids are going to trust and believe in it, we're going to find ourselves in football games. You look at some of the great programs throughout year after year, this is what they're doing. They don't have the best players every year. You look at the Shawnees and the Cherokees, they don't have the best players every year, but you find them always in games, always stealing games because you're able to just get guys to buy into a system, believe in it, do it, and execute it at a high level. And, obviously that's something that Mac established here. And, and he'll tell you that's something that his father established at the places he was at. So, we're going to continue doing that. And that's why we're going to find ourselves in games.
I got one question. Well, I have 2 questions. First question for you, Coach. Having a guy like Fleming back, going into that game, just seeing how he started to wear down on the Millville defense, that was kind of the reason I felt you guys had a shot at winning the game. How instrumental was it for your, to get your offensive line going and your running game established to just wear Millville down late in that ball game?
It's unreal having that kid back. He is a special young man. You guys see what he does between the white lines, what he does outside of the white lines. He's a phenomenal young man, heck of a leader, great student. So having that kid back on a football field is unbelievable and instrumental to what we do. I mean, he's obviously a freak show of a football player, and he's not somebody you want to tackle, right? That is a grown man running the football, but he's got size and speed. So what we've seen in the last 3 games is he's more productive in the second half because guys got to continually tackle him. He's a 25 to 30 carries a game guy, and he's produced. I mean, he's averaging $150 and 2+ touchdowns a game. So you can't kind of replicate that anywhere else in a high school offense. So to see him wear people down is a lot of fun, and to see him get going and playing football, and it's been a little bit of a road getting him here. So it's special to have him back.
And my second question to you is your ends, your two ends you just spoke about, but the middle of that defense, it seems like Francis is starting to wake up a little bit playing at middle linebacker. I saw him on a ton of tackles. So the middle of your defense is starting to kind of take shape too. Is that what do you think is the reason behind that? It kind of took a little bit for those guys to gel and be the rock that you guys kind of lean on.
100%. That has been Fran has really increased his level of play since week one. He has, when you turn on the film, 21's making plays. He's filling holes. He's flying around. He's got really, really good sideline to sideline speed. Another instrumental part of that is James Bassinet, Big James in the middle. He's demanding double teams, and he's big, and he's another guy you're not going to see on the stat sheet much, but he demands a double team with his size. That allows Fran to flow a little bit and really produce. Fran's been awesome. He's got his hands on two balls already. He's got 2 picks on the season, and he's got a lot of tackles. And he's done just such a great job. And that's really when you talk about Lenape football, you talk about stopping the run. Well, you can't stop the run without really good linebackers. And him elevating his level of play over the last few weeks has been a reason for that.
Coach, I do want to mention this, and just because I would prefer if you give the background here briefly. I know that your team has been rallying for RJ, a kid who lost his life here recently. What has that been like emotionally for you guys, and what is kind of the backstory there?
So that it's obviously devastating and incredibly tragic what happened there. 2 of our players, Ryan Dixon and Ty Smith, know the family fairly intimately, and Ryan was present when that happened, when that tragedy happened. So it definitely hits home. A 12-year-old losing his life is absolutely tragic and devastating. But for our guys, they've rallied around, and they've been a support system for themselves, especially those 2 guys. And, it's definitely been a big motivation for our football program, but more importantly, those 2 guys and that family on what they're going through.
Well, you guys certainly have quite a community there, and I know the support that you have for your kids and the community as a whole is second to none. So thank you, Woj. And so one last thing I want to get you out of here on this, man, and I appreciate you joining us. We talked a little bit earlier in the show about the worst weather at a game we've ever been involved with. What is yours?
Worst weather? We talking high school game or any game that I've been a part of?
Any game, brother.
So it's going to be 2011 Halloween weekend in Reading, Pennsylvania. I was playing for Widener University. We were playing Albright College, and we were absolutely in the snowstorm there. There might have been 6 to 7 inches of snow going on, and they were shoveling the field on one end while we were playing on the other end. It was absolutely insane in terms of weather. People say, "Oh man, it's fun to play in the snow." It wasn't that fun to play in the snow. It wasn't that fun. I'm going to tell you right now. It was cold. We had guys like shaking and trembling at halftime. It was it was a heck of a football game. So that's easily the worst weather I've ever been a part of.
Was that during the same time that Shady was jumping over the Detroit Lions?
Yeah.
That probably was.
I was at that
week.
game. I was at that game,
Yeah.
Ron. Believe it or not.
I don't actually think it was. I think those are 2 different. I think that was closer to Christmas weekend that year.
Okay.
This was like an anomaly. It was freaking October, last weekend in October, Halloween weekend.
Well,
it was a heck of a game.
Well, just do me a favor, Woj. When Steve Scanlon comes down to recruit some of your kids to play at Alvernia up there in Reading, just don't tell him about the snow. And I think Steve would say the same thing.
That's for sure.
Thanks for joining us, Woj. Always, man. Good luck next week. We appreciate everything, and congratulations on a big win Friday night.
Thanks, guys. Really appreciate you guys having me.
Thanks, Coach.
See.
Coach Woge of Lenape joined us. We're going to take a quick break and wrap up the show here. We'll be right back after this. Stay tuned. Joe McColgan, Nick Strom, and John Doherty have been part of a lot of wins in South Jersey football. They won on the field. Let them win for you in the game of real estate. With over $200 million in real estate transactions between the three of them and over 30 years of real estate experience, they're servicing anywhere in South Jersey, from the Philadelphia Bridges all the way to the Cape May Lighthouse. With one of South Jersey's fastest growing teams, $29.5 million alone in real estate sales in 2021 and 22. First-time home buyers, seller consultations, relocations, rentals, downsizing, or if you're not quite sure how to get started in the process of real estate, give them a call for a free consultation at 609-314-9862. That's South Jersey Elite. They won on the field. Let them win for you in the game of real estate. All right. Time's ticking down here, Rod. As you guys can see, I got the poncho on. There was a lot of different options of what to wear today, but I'm sticking with my Eagles poncho. This is going to be a messy game, man. And I worry about the run game, but also I'm still alive in the survivor pool. We talked about that every Sunday, I think. I don't know if we go with the Chargers today at Houston or the Steelers at home against the Jets.
Those are two interesting.
Yeah. There's not a lot of the biggest differential from the odds makers is I think New England at Green Bay, but I used Green Bay against the Bears earlier this year, so I don't know. See. It's been an interesting football season thus far. The talk of the weekend that I heard was everybody talking about Tua. Just
that's
terrible.
That was pretty bad. I mean, every football, you don't even have to be a football fan to understand what happened. Mm-hmm. I was watching a game and I made a post about the Tua situation, and my wife, she wakes up the next morning and she goes on and was like, everybody's talking about this Tua thing. So she, we have access with our cell phone. So she goes on the phone and looks up what happened, and she's asking me if it's some type of lawsuit that they could get from it. So, and my first thought was, if a average fan, I mean, my wife is a little more than an average football fan, right. But, if an average fan can see that in context of what it is and come away with something's not right, yeah, then something wasn't right about that. It's nobody that thought he had a back injury. Like, that was the first thing. No, like, they put it out, it was his back and this and that, like, dude, you don't wobble like that. You don't shake your head after a back injury. So for him to be on the field playing, I think everybody had concern before the game started. And once it started, it kind of went away. And then once he got that hit and he kind of locked up and all of that, I think everybody was like, wait a minute here. Right. So I have a couple questions off of that, but we won't even go too far in that. But go ahead.
I just think it's the number one thing is that it's the thing that jumps out to me is, as always, it's really, really not fair or good that teams play on Thursday night when they played on Sunday. Mm-hmm. And I guess there's no way to really do it, but if there was a way to maybe have the the teams that play those games in the beginning of the season or something, coming off of buys maybe, so they have the extra time. It just seems it's just not adequate time for NFL players to turn around and play, and
not for anybody.
not for anybody, but especially those guys, because these are car collisions, when they hit each other, and it's just unfortunate. It's sad. It's should have never been playing, is my opinion. But the roof did not leak, Mom. I'm getting ready to go to the game. You know that. Mom is she is interested in coming up for a game this weekend, and we might make it happen.
Oh, that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah.
That would be pretty cool.
Yeah. So
we can make something happen with that. It's not a roof leak, but it's some dancing going on up there or something.
Dogs, there's a lot going on. It was just that kind of weekend. It was just a wild weekend, and the weather certainly. If anybody needs to go back through, we got a lot of people who chimed in on their worst weather experiences. Mm-hmm. Pleasantville has been doing well. 3-10 last season, or 0-10 last season. Ahmad 3-1 this season, no doubt. Brandon, I hope all is well, man. I don't know if you're at the Winslow game last night. I saw they won 6-0 over Ocean City. Big win for them, 2 in a row. Trick, glad you're watching. And Tyrone was talking about that draw play Lenape had that was killing the Bolts on Friday night. And now, really, when you look at Lenape, and we're so grateful that Coach Woge joined us, but when you look at Lenape, they lost that opener to Wayne Valley. Remember, they were winning that game. They lost late. Lenape, who at the time was their top playmaker because Fleming did not play, he was out after the first quarter most of the game with cramps. They let that one slip. Then they lose to Shawnee. They didn't have Fleming in that one, I don't believe. So now that's a team that you see. The team it is now is not the team it was the first 2 weeks, and how close they were the first 2 weeks without those pieces. Like, if Fleming plays the whole season or if Lenape doesn't cramp, that team might have been undefeated. And if they beat Millville, you'd say, well, they're two of the top teams in South Jersey. Well, I got news for you, folks. They might be two of the top teams in South Jersey. Lenape, now the season goes on, they're going to be tight. Or they're going to be in the thick of it. So that's Lenape football.
I have a couple teams that I've had written down on a piece of paper all season. That midway point, everybody would be saying, I don't want to play them. And Lenape, Cherokee, Winslow, I'll say East Side. I know they escaped out of that one, but East Side. And who was my last one? Just slipped my mind. I had one more. I've had those teams, kind of written down. Once I knew Fleming was out, he was injured. He had a collarbone injury. He had to get back. You could just see the way some teams play and how they're losing games. If you insert a certain guy into that, killing the clock or just certain little things that teams tend to do when they have their guys back.
Two other teams I'm going to add to that. The first one, I just got a tweet about their running back. He had 109 yards rushing on Friday and is now a little less than 700 shy of the school's all-time rushing mark. And that is Jabril Mace in Mainland. I don't want to play Mainland
right
when playoffs come around with that back and that coaching staff being able to run the ball. By the way, Mace, and thank you for sending this along. The mailman down at Mainland sends us along and says Calvin Robinson, the class of 81, had 4,010 rushing yards, and that is the one that Mace is going for. Always love when people send the stats along like that. The other team, how about if Angelo Rodriguez runs like he does and Highland commits to that run game like they did the other night? Hey.
Remember when we talked about it's like we have some of these conversations. The first conversation last week, we kind of talked about the Millville Lenape game. How was it going to be? And I was saying I think Lenape had the recipe to beat them because they had the running back and just certain things I felt like up front they could do to Millville that other teams couldn't do. Now, granted, I understand people get hurt or people don't play, whatever. Nobody cares. Work harder. But that's another game. That's another team that we talked about early that they would have to make a decision. Yeah. When you have a quarterback that's coming off an offseason where people are kind of looking at him as the next guy, right? He has a family lineage. His dad is a coach. They want to kind of like, do they want to feature him as a quarterback? Like, what are they going to do? But one thing I always tell people is about coaches. They are who they are. Sometimes they may try to go away from what they've been. When we talk about Highland, the pass game, they were trying to pass a little more, things like that. But true, Highland is a run team first. And when they do that with the line play, it's going to be a long day for anybody that plays them. So that's the other team that we kind of talked about. And they got to figure some things out. And I think they're at that point where they're figuring it out.
Yeah, that was a big win for them. We got some other candidates here for worst weather. Damon Benjamin, worst weather, West Defford Buna Group 2 Championship 2003, snow piled in the back of both end zones. It had to be bad. And Kevin, my guy, Kevin Minnick says, worst weather. Gateway playoff win a few years ago. Must have been 20. That's the one I was at.
Yeah.
We were both there. All right. I got to bundle up, get over the link, see what happens today. Whew. Ball security, that's what it's all about. Thank you all for tuning into my Hats Off podcast. We'll be back Wednesday night at 7 p.m.
Gotcha.
For the South Jersey Football Frenzy show.
I don't know if they could see it, but
yeah, big one. Big one for Camden High. Getting by Heights yesterday. And they have Haddonfield on Friday. That's a high candidate for game of the week. We'll see. You'll find out on Wednesday what the game of the week is. We'll preview it and talk in depth. And we'll be back here to talk about everything on Sunday morning, 9 a.m.
One thing I would like to do is wear apparel from schools. Yeah. So if anybody has a shirt or sweatshirt that they want me to wear, I like representing. I had my Clearview one on the 1 week and had my East Side one on, formerly Woodrow Wilson when they three-peat, but that's something that I would like to do for the show to kind of show some support, man.
Get some swag.
Yeah.
We got helmets.
I definitely have helmets.
We got helmets. We love helmets. Still some we need for that too, but we'll get there. We'll get there. We'll get some swag, get some helmets. And then I still got a lot of, what size you wear, Rod?
I'm at XL.
XL. Okay, there you go. Amber's going to get you something.
Yeah, XL.
And we still got, I still got a lot of T-shirts and stuff too. We got to start giving these out on the show. We'll get there. Stay dry, folks. Enjoy the football today. Stay inside. Make yourself some soup or some chili or order some pizza or whatever. Don't go outside. But when you're inside, please think of me standing in that miserable, cold rain.
Be safe driving to the game too, Mark.
Yeah.
I know we're only 5 minutes,
but
be safe, man. I saw about 5 accidents on my way in this morning.
Seen a lot of accidents. Let me just give a word of advice to folks. I know you don't need it, but when it's raining like this, if you start to hydroplane, do not hit your brake. Do not hit the brake.
Right.
I cannot be more clear about that. Do not hit the brake.
It's always trouble when you see those bright red lights in front of you and the car is not,
I saw a guy do a spin like this on 295 yesterday, smash the barrier. I know, Will, we got the polos from last year. We got polos.
Mm-hmm.
Polos is a different color this year. Amber, we could figure out, Coach Melody owes us a helmet as well as a package deal. We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
We'll see you guys
We'll
sometime
inbox
soon.
a address that you can send
We'll make it happen.
Yeah.
Everybody stay dry. Don't break if you're hydroplaning. Enjoy your Sunday. Thank you for watching. Thank you for tuning in. Share it out. We'll be on a streaming platform soon. We'll see you on Wednesday night. Football season is getting better and better each week. Thank you again from Studio B for Rod.